Steven Universe Season 1 Episode 6 Cat Fingers furthers the development of Steven's powers, and shows his loving relationship with his father as he tackles the art of transformation. He tries to copy Amethyst in transforming his full body, but only succeeds in transforming parts of his body, with results ranging from cute to total body horror. While still rooted in the early show's light tone, it further dips its toes in the dark storytelling pool started in Season 1 Episode 4 Together Breakfast, with an homage to the boundary-pushing, chaotically violent Japanese manga and film Akira, in what might be a metaphor for gender dysphoria. The plot of the episode starts with Steven helping out at his father's car wash job. However, Steven's tendency towards deviating toward fun causes Greg to lose money when he inadvertently offends a high-profile client, Beach City's Mayor Dewey, voiced by Joel Hodgson. As a character, Mayor Dewey solidifies the setting of Beach City as a functioning city. We know some aspects of its working class, Greg and the Frymans, its middle class, Steven and the Crystal Gems, and are now introduced to its upper and political class through Mayor Dewey. Though not actively antagonistic, he is portrayed as standoffish, not particularly nice, and having undue power to affect the working class's well-being. Greg defers to him more than he would with, say, Mr. Fryman, and that stems from an unequal system. It's a socialist theme subtler than the one in Season 1 Episode 5 Frybo, but still actively present. As he departs, his campaigning is depicted in an annoying fashion to make the viewer disrespect him in opposition to the appearance of respect that he tries to cultivate. Mayor Dewey! Dewey's name alludes to the real-world inspiration for Beach City, Dewey Beach, Delaware. Steven Universe takes place in an alternate universe where the United States is composed a little differently. So Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia are all the single state of Delmarva, and Beach City is like Dewey Beach if it were in what we would call Maryland. The slight distortion allows the writers to have some freedom to depict Beach City as its own thing, without being confined to the real-world Dewey Beach. Amethyst pranks Steven and Greg by turning into a cat and spraying them with a hose. It's much friendlier than turning into a cop and pretending to shoot at Steven. Steven is intrigued by her transformation, and she encourages him to try turning into Steven himself, high transgender theme, as well as a sea lion, wolf, luchador, high again transgender theme, bird, and pearl to mock and annoy her. Womp womp! Steven asks for a transformation lesson. She advises him to start small, so he suggests trying out the cat form, and she agrees. It's worth note that transformation into cats is a popular motif in transgender art, with enough trans girls being interested in the anime Catgirl figure that the label Catgirl has become slang for a trans girl. As a metaphor for a trans boy himself, Steven's desire to transform into a cat, and the attempt to doing so triggering body horror, may be an allusion to this transgender motif. After a lot of excruciating effort, Steven only succeeds in making a single finger become a cat, with fur and a head of its own. Similar to the Frybo mascot looking a little freaky before it turns evil, this cat finger is kind of body horror in its own right, but is disguised as being cute. It meows! Who doesn't love cats? Besides, it's a power, and Steven's wanted one of his own for a while.
This is so cool!
Is it though? It is worth noting that there is a Jewish superstition regarding cats, connected to some folklore regarding the figure of Lilith, a monster who attacks babies. Some Sephardic folklore holds that Lilith transforms into a cat to attack her prey, and the idea that cats might be Lilith is a prevailing Jewish superstition. Though Rebecca Sugar probably doesn't believe it literally, she may have internalized a sense that cats may be sinister. He shows Greg, who freaks out, quite understandably. He tries to be supportive, but totally isn't into it. Steven shows it to Sadie and Lars. Sadie likes cats and pets it, making it purr. Lars doesn't like cats, antagonizes it, and it bites him. Instead of calling Lars out on obviously provoking the kitty, Sadie suggests that it acted out because it's lonely. Yeah, I'm blaming her for indirectly causing the future chaos. To give his cat some friends, Steven turns all the fingers on his hand into cat fingers. Yeah, that's cute. Not at all horrifying. Goes to get fry bits for his cat fingers, and we check in with Petey since the events of Frybo. He is now working the deep fryer, the job that we saw Mr. Fryman working in Season 1, Episode 2, Laser Light Cannon, indicating that there has been some success in his socialist efforts to break down economic stratification, all hidden in a joke about Steven ordering off menu. He feeds his cat fingers the fry bits. Petey calls the cat fingers freakish, pointing out the obvious. This is body horror, and Steven is acting like it isn't. There are parallels to gender dysphoria, where one's own body feels wrong on a deep intuitive level, but no one else can see it, and you just want to pretend that everything's fine. One's pubescent development is natural, so you feel like it should be acceptable, and you go into deep denial about how wrong it feels. Likewise, Steven insists that his obviously unnatural body horror cat fingers are natural.
Steven, that is freakish. No, it's not. It's natural.
And shows how much he appreciates them by turning the rest of his fingers into cat fingers, embracing the body horror in deep denial of their intrinsic wrongness. Mr. Fryman calls Ronaldo, voiced by Zach Steele, over to take a look. Excited, he takes a pic for his blog.
Keep Beach City Weird!
It is a parody of Keep Austin Weird, an homage to the irregular aspects of working-class Austin. Except while Keep Austin Weird honors weirdness as part of uplifting the common man, we'll see that Keep Beach City Weird honors weirdness alongside promoting harmful conspiracy theories, equivalent to anti-Semitism. We don't get a hint of that yet, but it's coming. Ronaldo hands Steven the phone to see his photo, and Steven learns that his cat fingers can't actually function that well as fingers. Trying to grab things just upsets the cats, which don't appreciate things being shoved in their faces. And then it gets worse. He struggles to open the fridge and can't even hold his sandwich with his hands. However, when Amethyst asks if he needs help, he can't admit that he made a mistake, that the cat fingers are bad, and he insists that he's totally in control of his body. Amethyst seems to recognize that he's stretching the truth, but doesn't realize how big the problem is, and teasingly leaves him with his problem as she and the other adult crystal gems go to fight a monster out at sea. Steven tries to swim to join them, but the cat fingers freak out when he dunks them in water. He still insists that nothing's wrong, but we can now see the panic on his face. Pearl is concerned and wants to stay to help him, but Garnet knows that the monster will cause great harm if the adult crystal gems don't all leave to stop it now. So Pearl reluctantly leaves on the mission, calling to Steven to try to stay calm. Steven finally admits to himself that the cat fingers are bad. He tries to transform back into his whole self, but can't. And then it gets worse. Cat growths start appearing all over his body. He calls for help, but knows that the crystal gems are too far away to help him. Remembering his father, he crawls to Greg's car wash, horrifically emerging from the bushes as a grotesque hulking mass of cat heads. Suddenly, this cute one-off about a cat finger is now a horror show. This is reflected in the color palette. While still fanciful pastels, the colors are richer and darker. Shadows are intensified. The viewer is automatically put on edge, and when Greg freaks out, the viewer feels it too. It has the look of a Wes Craven film, with visuals ripped from Akira. Greg sprays what I'm sure he thinks is a monster, and the cat heads recede into gross layers of flesh, briefly revealing Steven, before they reassert in a different formation. This sort of visceral body horror is consistent with general trans mask art, which I would associate with the original Akira aesthetic, centered on distress of the flesh.
Can't you make them go away?
I tried, but it made it worse.
It's technically about Steven communicating the problem, but it also sounds similar to a queer person discussing a truth about themselves. It's like a trans person ignoring gender dysphoria, pretending everything is alright, that they're comfortable in their own skin, and the body horror just gets worse. The dialogue is similar to X2, X-Men United's.
Have you tried not being a mutant?
As the body horror gets worse, Steven despairs.
I'm a monster! I'm an adorable cat monster!
No, you're not!
The dialogue is silly, but the way it's delivered is heartfelt. Greg is kind of a mess, but he honestly cares about Steven. He tears up, in another example of healthy masculine emotional expression. In the subtext, he cares about his trans son and supports him through gender dysphoria. Steven works out that the cats recede with water, so they try spraying him and finally soaking him in the car wash. It gets worse before it gets better. Steven actually gets a fur coat, but he emerges as his own self. No cat parts at all. A stray cat finger emerges, but is quickly suppressed. Steven is whole once more. Let this be a lesson, trans people. You don't actually want to be part cat. I could take the ears. A consequence of this misadventure is that Steven never tries transforming into something non-human again. He's a transgender protagonist with transformation powers, but he doesn't transform in the ways that we've come to expect the trope to go. Similar to the character of Loki in Marvel Comics, he only transforms into variants of himself according to his self-conception. As a trans boy figure, Steven stays a male human, but transforms his age, size, and color, shifting between white boy tan and bright pink. Steven rejoins the Crystal Gems as they return from their mission. Pearl is ready to help him, but Steven proudly demonstrates that he got back to normal on his own. Pearl rages at Amethyst for causing the problem, and Garnet admonishes her for lacking faith in Steven. I don't like this conclusion. Pearl has some major flaws, but I don't think she's actually in the wrong here. Steven was suffering, and Amethyst just teased him about it after causing the problem. Even if Garnet foresaw him resolving it on his own, he was in real distress, and it was partly Amethyst's fault. I don't think the takeaway should be that Steven is getting more capable as a superhero, but reassurance that the scary thing is over. The episode ends with Steven annoying everyone with cat puns. The tone is now saccharine, the moment of body horror almost entirely forgotten. I expect most kids would be fine with it, just going with the flow, but it might cause adults a bit of mood whiplash. It's kind of a one-shot episode without much impact in the series, besides scaring Steven away from non-human transformations. At the same time, it's not really skippable, as references to it are made in other episodes.
I met a guy on an internet message board who's selling car wash brushes for real cheap.
I don't like those brushes. They feel weird on your fur.
Steven even brings back the cat fingers a few times. From an overall series perspective, there's not a lot of point to the episode. The main thing it accomplishes is showing the bond between Steven and Greg, and how Greg can use his practical skills to help Steven with magical matters beyond his understanding, which is redundant. That point was already made in Laser Light Cannon. It ends up just resolving Frybo and laying the groundwork for later episodes, with Sadie making excuses for Lars, and Ronaldo documenting weird things he observes in Beach City. It's episodic and kind of irrelevant. However, it's intriguing as a possible metaphor for gender dysphoria. This is how I choose to read the episode. I know this interpretation is not shared by most fans, but I think that is due in large part to lacking the context about Rebecca Sugar being non-binary and Steven being a trans figure when everyone first saw the episode and rewatched it in syndication for years. Like with the knowledge that Pearl is a former slave, early episodes can be read in different ways with additional levels of context. With the transgender context, Catfinger stands out as an homage to the body horror a trans person deals with, and the invaluable role of a supportive parent in helping them transition. Next time, Steven's got a crush. It's the titanic pressure of ocean water pressing against his bubble shield.